Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the inner sanctum.
Don-maclaughlin mandel-kramer in an episode of the Phillips H. Lord fictional account of the FBI. None of this ever claimed to be anything official, the FBI. But the program called Counterspy from 73 years ago, October 4th, 1949, the case of the Sweepstakes Murder. And we thank you for joining us. On this Tuesday, this is the 4th day of October, 277th day of the year, 88 days remaining until we get to 2023. The first complete English language Bible, the Matthew Bible, printed on this date in 1537. The first U.S. Open Men's Golf Championship run by the U.S. Golf Association was played on this date in 1895 on a 9-hole course in Newport, Rhode Island. Gustav Borgman began sculpting Mount Rushmore on this date in 1927. The debut appearance of the Dick Tracy comic strip on this date in 1931. In 1957, the launch of Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite to orbit the Earth.
Radio Moscow. As a result of intensive work by research institutes and designing bureaus, the first artificial Earth satellite in the world has now been created. This first satellite was today successfully launched in the USSR.
Until 2 days ago, that sound had never been heard on this Earth. Suddenly, it has become as much a part of 20th century life as the whir of your vacuum cleaner. It's a report from man's farthest frontier, the radio signal transmitted by the Soviet Sputnik, the first man-made satellite as it passed over New York earlier today.
Shortwave audio from Radio Moscow. The satellite stayed in space just 3 months before falling to Earth and burning up. The success of Sputnik 1 in 1957 sparked the race for space. The CBS TV show Leave It to Beaver debuted on this date in 1957. Jerry Mathers starring as the Beaver. In 1975 on this date, a Cessna 310Q airplane crashed over Wilmington, North Carolina. It killed the pilot, severely injuring several pro wrestlers affiliated with the NWA's Mid-Atlantic promotion. One of the survivors, the legendary Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Woo! The first Hooters restaurant opened in Clearwater, Florida on this date in 1983. In 1988, televangelist Jim Baker was indicted for fraud. In 1993, the Russian constitutional crisis, where Russian President Boris Yeltsin ordered tanks to storm the Russian parliament building. The second largest cash robbery in U.S. history occurred on this date in 1997 at the Charlotte, North Carolina office of Loomis, Fargo & Company. An FBI investigation eventually resulted in 24 convictions and the recovery of about 95% of the $17.3 million stolen in cash. In 2002, John Walker Lynn, the so-called American Taliban, sentenced to 20 years in prison by a federal judge in Alexandria, Virginia. Also on that same date in 2002, Richard Reed pled guilty in a federal court on trying to blow up a transatlantic flight with explosives hidden in his shoes, which is why when you go through TSA screening, you have to take off your shoes these days. I took off my shoes once, and they claimed that I had gas weapons in my socks. Turned out that wasn't it at all, but we'll leave that alone. In 2006, WikiLeaks, launched by Julian Assange. In 2010, Supreme Court began a new era with 3 women serving together for the first time as Elena Kagan took her place at the end of a bench. And in 2021, Bubba Wallace became the first African-American driver in the modern era of NASCAR to win a major race. Passing away on this date in history, the painter Rembrandt and astronaut Gordon Cooper. This is the birth date of President Rutherford B. Hayes, writer Damon Runyon, whom you hear as Damon Runyon Theater periodically here on Classic Radio Theater. Quite the writer. Wrote some amazing stories. Also, comedian Buster Keaton, film director George Sidney, actor Charlton Heston, author Alvin Toffler, author Jackie Collins, and passing away last year, I should say, writer Anne Rice of the Vampire Chronicles. Leroy Van Dyke, the country singer, 93 years old today. He did Walk On By, but probably his biggest hit was The Auctioneer, and I can't talk that fast. I cannot talk that fast, but Leroy Van Dyke, 93 today. Civil rights activist H. Rap Brown, 79. From That's My Mama and Amen, Clifton Davis, 77. By the way, Davis also wrote several hits for the Jackson 5, including Never Can Say Goodbye. Yeah. Oh, I can't sing that one good today. Actress Susan Sarandon is 76. From Gotti and I, the Jury, Armin Asante is 73. The father of Jake and Maggie, Stephen Gillianall, 73 years old today. He was Patrick in SpongeBob SquarePants, Dauberon coach, and his best role was Tom Cullen in the TV miniseries of The Stand, Bill Fagerback. He is 65 years old today. Pet Shop Boys' Chris Lowe is 63. John Cicada, 61. He was TNA's Abyss, and I believe he hasn't gotten caught by the layoff bug in the WWE. I think he's still a producer there. Chris Parks, 49. From Clueless, Alicia Silverstone, 46. From These All That and Josie and the Pussycats, Rachel Lee Cook, 43. From Glee and Supergirl on TV, Melissa Benoist is 34. And Don Johnson and Melanie Griffin's daughter, Dakota Johnson, who had a big role in the 2012 21 Jump Street movie and 50 Shades, Dakota Johnson, 33 years old. Those just a few of the people celebrating the 4th day of October as their birthday. If this is your birthday...
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say, Happy birthday to you!
And on this Tuesday Classic Radio Theater, we're going to go back 73 years to October 4th, 1949. Don McLaughlin, Mandel-Kramer, Counterspy. That's coming up following these important words from your favorite radio station.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining Medi-Share right now. Medi-Share is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly healthcare costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. Medi-Share can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And Medi-Share is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 29 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now more crime drama. Don McLaughlin, Mandel-Kramer in an episode of Counterspy from 73 years ago, October 4th, 1949, the case of the Sweepstakes Murder.
Pepsi-Cola, P-E-P-S-I, that's your smartest cola buy. Pepsi-Cola presents Counterspy.
Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy. Washington calling David Harding, Counterspy.
Harding, Counterspy. Calling Washington.
United States Counterspies.
especially appointed to investigate and combat the enemies of our country, both at home and abroad.
Tonight, the case of the Sweepstakes Murders. Another Counterspy report to the American people. It was a moonless night in the small southern town of Gulfport, near the Mexican border. In a dimly lit, evil-smelling corridor of a rooming house, two shadowy men stood before a closed door.
Tom, you sure this is the room?
Positive, Sheriff. Let's go in.
Wait, Tom. Get away from the door.
But what?
Get back alongside it. That's it. Now, let's see if it's unlocked. Yeah, it is unlocked. No light in the room. Now, listen. I'm going to shove the door open, shine my light in. You stay right where you are till I tell you.
Okay, Sheriff.
What the... Come on, Thomas. What is it?
Look. There on the floor.
What? It's Frenchie.
What's left of him?
His chest. Look at his chest. What?
I don't know what did it. I never seen anything like this.
It's obvious, Uncle Si. The big shots in the sweepstakes racket found out Frenchie was going to talk to a newspaper reporter. Me. So they killed him. I never saw anything so horrible.
It's an outrage, Tom.
But if they think they've stopped me, they got another thing coming. I found something in Frenchie's room tonight which just might lead me to the men we want.
No? What did you find?
I'll tell you all about it when I bring in the story. I've got to be on my way.
Yeah, no, Tom. One man's been murdered already. I don't want anything to happen to you.
Oh, now, look, Uncle Si, this is a terrific story. Thousands and thousands of Americans are buying tickets on what's supposed to be an official Mexican sweepstakes. But the Mexican government says it doesn't know anything about it.
Yes, I know.
And tonight, the racketeers proved they're murderers, too. Is the Gulfport Gazette going to laugh that off?
That's not the point, Tom. I can't let my own nephew risk his life.
Your nephew has to take the same chances any other reporter would take. See you later, Uncle Si.
Hello?
Is Tom Fisher there?
No, he's not, but this is his wife, Ruth. Can I take a message?
Yeah. Tell him to lay off the big story he's working on. Unless he wants the same thing to happen to him that happened to Frenchie.
Tom, that man on the phone frightens me. Darling, please drop the story you're working on.
Drop the biggest story that ever came my way? Don't be silly, Ruth.
But I don't want anything to happen to you.
Nothing's going to happen to me. Now, where... Oh, here it is.
What's that?
Oh, something I picked up in Frenchie's room.
Looks like a poker chip.
Uh-huh. Well, gotta get moving.
Where are you going?
No, you're forgetting the rules. When Papa goes out on a big story, Mama doesn't ask questions.
Tom, don't go.
Hey, stop it now. Relax. I'll be back soon. Hey, you in the launch. You got room for one more? I'm going out to the gambling ship, too.
Number 22, Pierre Geneva. Number 22 in. Take your bet, please. Take your
Hiya, Toro.
Yes, Monk.
Big spending crowd aboard tonight, Toro. Here's the take from the wheel so far.
How much, Monk?
$2,100. And the launch is still bringing the suckers out here to this ship. Not bad, huh?
Oh, great. No, he's not bad.
What are you counting for? Don't you trust me?
Just as far as, how do you say? I can see you.
Oh, now, look, Toro.
No. Do I'm enjoyed to count the money. Much money.
You ought to be having the time of your life, then, the way that stuff is rolling in.
door, Monk. The back door.
Okay. Who is it? Hey, Johnny, open up.
All right. Get in. Okay. Get that gun out of my back.
What the? That's Tom Fisher, the reporter.
What?
That's right, Toro. Caught him snooping around below decks. You know where.
So, Senor Fisher, you have found what you expected below, huh?
Why, I don't know what you mean. No.
You're a poor liar, senor. Nor are you wise. You should have heeded the advice conveyed to your wife. Then she would not become a widow.
What? Now listen, Toro.
You know, senor, that I was once a matador, a fighter of bulls.
No,
This case contains two of my favorite swords. This gold-hilted one was presented to me by enthusiastic aficionados in Mexico City after a corrida in which I dispatched 6 of the bravest and fiercest bulls ever seen in any arena. As you see, from the side, the blade appears to be straight. But if you hold it this way, observe how the blade curves to penetrate to the bull's heart. And now, Senor Bull, I am sighting on your heart.
From Counterspy Field Office, Charleston, South Carolina, to David Harding, Washington. Still another distributor of phony Mexican Sweepstakes tickets apprehended here. Terrified, the man pleaded his arrest be kept secret. Denied knowing leaders of racket, but said had been warned that any squealer met horrible death by a golden sword.
All Counterspy Statistical Department personnel. This is David Harding. Referring to counterfeit Mexican Sweepstakes tickets. This case has some strange angles and is high on the Counterspy docket. We've had an official request for help from the Mexican government. Further, thousands of Americans are being swindled. Now, all murders of last 3 months are to be reclassified as to method of homicide. The counterfeit tickets themselves on hand here are to be given to my assistant, Harry Peters, for laboratory analysis.
Here it is, Dave. The paper those phony sweepstake tickets were printed on is a 34-pound super newsprint stock.
Oh?
It was made by the Southwest Pulp and Paper Mill in Orengo, Texas.
Texas, huh? You get a list of their customers, Peters?
We can't get that for a day or two. The mill had a fire last week. The records are in a mess.
Oh, fine.
They told me, though, a couple of hundred newspapers buy super newsprint for their rotogravure sections. This particular grade. In addition to printers all over the country.
That's many, huh?
I told you this would be tough.
Well, maybe we can expedite matters. What did the lab say about the ink used on the phony tickets?
Well, it's a standard black ink, Chief. Colored ink or some special variation of black might be traced. But standard black is practically impossible.
Well, how about the printing press?
It's a flat bed press. Printing in large sheets of paper, not from continuous rolls.
Well, as soon as we get that list from the paper mill, I'll instruct our agents. Yes, what is it, Miss Ferguson?
This report just came in from Texas, Mr. Harding. I think you'll want to see it.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I like your new hairdo, Alan.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Only it's not new.
Uh-oh.
What is it, Dave?
Listen to this report. 2 nights ago, a man called Frenchie, a small-time grafter, was found murdered in a rooming house in Gulfport, Texas. He'd been killed by a long stiletto or sword that mutilated his chest and went completely through his body. Now, wait. Early the following morning, the body of young newspaper reporter Tom Fisher was found in the Gulf, just off Gulfport. He'd been murdered in exactly the same way.
Dave, that report from our Charleston office about the distributor who was peddling the phony sweepstake tickets. Didn't he say something about a sword?
Right, Peters. He said that anyone in the racket who squealed died horribly by a golden sword. Wait a minute now. Take a look at this map here. Oh.
What, Dave?
Here's Orengo, where you said that paper mill's located.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Gulfport.
About 100 miles away.
Peters, we've got to shortcut the job of tracing this paper. I want you to grab the first plane for Gulfport and go to work.
Now, Mrs. Fisher, try to recall. Did your husband tell you where he was going that night? The last time you saw him?
I asked him, but he wouldn't tell me, Mr. Peters. I begged him not to go.
Now try to pull yourself together. Come on now.
I'm sorry.
That's it. Now, Tom's editor, his uncle, said Tom didn't have any real clue to the men behind the phony sweepstakes racket. Did Tom tell you anything that he didn't tell his uncle?
No. Tom said he just looked around the room of that poor man who'd been murdered.
Frenchie, yes. Now, try to remember, Mrs. Fisher, this is very important. Tom may have said something which we might use as a clue, some little thing.
But he didn't. We had a rule.
October 4th, 1949, Counterspy on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The news from 73 years ago follows these important messages. Thanks for spending part of your Tuesday with us here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of Counterspy, as it was broadcast over ABC at 7:30 Eastern Time, Tuesday, October 4th, 1949. In the newspapers of that Tuesday, 73 years ago, these were some of the headlines. A hurricane struck Texas's richest coastal strip last night. The Weather Bureau at Corpus Christi reported the Gulf storm struck and moved inland between Freeport and Matagorda. Matagorda about 30 miles southwest of Freeport toward Galveston. In the storm area nestled dozens of small towns, more than 1 million people, and many millions of dollars of industry, farming, and shipping. Winds of 60 to 65 miles an hour were reported at Freeport. Hurricane force winds 75 miles an hour. Galveston had 46-mile-an-hour winds. Bayport, north of Galveston, on the edge of the triangle, had 55-mile-an-hour winds. A Navy pilot who flew into the storm estimated its highest winds at 120 miles an hour. The Weather Bureau more cautious. It stuck to above 100 miles an hour in its estimates. Britain, France, and the U.S., spurred by Russia's lightning-swift diplomatic endorsement of the new Chinese Communist government, expected to examine this week their own attitudes toward recognition. Britain took the initiative yesterday by announcing she is prepared to discuss recognition with the 11 other nations of the North Atlantic Alliance and the countries of the British Commonwealth, a total of 18 world governments. Thursday, when Britain Foreign Secretary Bevan returns to the U.S. from Canada, he will review with U.S. Secretary of State Dean Acheson and French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman what is to be done in light of the Soviet step, diplomatic informed sources say in London. Bloody violence erupted anew in the strike-scarred coal fields yesterday as the nation's first double-header steel coal walkout pinched America's economy a little harder. Gunfire pinpointed a clash between Tennessee's union and non-union miners, with at least 3 hurt and 2 others missing. This came at the same time as 102,000 of John L. Lewis's men streamed back into the pits, the one bright spot on the strike scene. With 400,000 United Mine workers and 500,000 CIO United Steel workers on strike over pensions, the industrial snowball began to roll. Railroads announced plans for laying off additional workers, started totaling up their millions in losses if the walkouts continue. Packard Motor Car Company says it's going to furlough 7,800 workers Thursday and Friday due to shortages already caused by the steel strike. Dock workers walking out in the Great Lakes. And in the Pikeville, Tennessee gun battle, Matt Bunch, United Mine Workers International representative, said 20 unarmed union miners ambushed as they approached a non-union mine owned by Keener Brothers. Bernard M. Baruch said last night that the Russian atomic blast means this country must set up at once a standby mobilization plan and maintain our overwhelming advantage in the field of atomic weapons. The 79-year-old financier urged that the U.S. re-examine its strategy for peace and stand its ground in insisting upon nothing less than a truly effective international control of atomic energy. An old, weary, and apparently without an owner around to defend it, a wayward automobile is in trouble with the law. According to a legal ad in the Cleburne, Alabama News, it's the state of Alabama complainant versus one 1936 model two-door automobile. Seems the old buggy was caught dabbling in illegal transportation of liquors. Those some of the day's top news stories as reported in the newspapers of Tuesday, October 4th, 1949, on your radio Counterspy, which continues now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Something.
Yes?
A poker chip. A golden poker chip.
A poker chip?
Only this one was gold, and it had the picture of a bull on it. Tom said he found it in French's room.
Well, ordinary poker chips aren't usually gold. They're white, red, or blue. But they do have gold chips, the high-priced ones, in gambling houses. Are there any gambling houses in Gulfport, you know?
Not in town, but there's a ship out in the Gulf, a converted yacht, where people go to dine and dance and gamble. El Toro, it's called. It's very popular.
El Toro. Toro means bull in Spanish, and there was a picture of a bull on the chip your husband had.
Mr. Peters, do you think that's where Tom went that night?
It could be. That's where I'm going now.
I'll go with you.
No, Mrs. Fisher. This might be dangerous.
I don't care. I want to find the man who killed my husband.
Mrs. Fisher, that's my job. You stay here and I'll keep in touch with you. I'll see you later.
Black and even men.
Good evening, Mr. Peters.
Ruth Fisher, what are you doing here?
I told you I want to find a man who killed my husband.
And I told you to... Well, what's the use? You're here now.
Have you found out anything?
No, not yet. I've been circulating around in the crowd, but so... Say, there it is again.
What?
You hear that sound? Kind of dull hammering. It's coming from below decks.
Yes, I hear it. It's probably the yacht's engine.
But we're not moving. Ventilator pumps? No. Sounds more like...
What?
There's too much noise in here. Come out on deck where we can hear better.
Yes.
Pardon?
Oh, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Mr. Peters.
Wait. Yes, by George, I think I know what that sound is.
What?
A printing press.
A printing press out here on a boat?
I'm sure it is. It seems to be coming from below decks. Come on, Mrs. Fisher. The stairs are over this way.
Look out, Mr. Peters. There are two men behind you.
What?
Oh!
That does it.
You killed Mr. Peters.
October 4th, 1949, Counterspy on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. A conclusion follows these messages. On Wednesday's Classic Radio Theater, Just the Facts, ma'am. Jack Webb, starring in an episode of Dragnet from 68 years ago, October 5th, 1954, The Big Handsome Bandit. A tavern has been robbed and a couple have been shot. One of the crooks has been shot and rats out the other two. That's on Wednesday's Classic Radio Theater, but now the conclusion of Counterspy, October 4th, 1949, 73 years ago today.
And now, back to Counterspy and David Harding in Washington.
Miss Ferguson,
Yes, Mr. Harding.
any word from Peters in Gulfport yet?
Not a thing. I'm worried, Mr. Harding.
So am I. I'm flying down to Gulfport.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Call the airport. Tell them to get a plane ready. Then call Mert Kennedy at the field office in Dallas. Tell him to meet me in Gulfport. I'm leaving at once.
Wake up, Senor Peters. Wake up, I say.
Stop hitting him, you brute.
You be silent, Senor Official. Or you get it, too. Senor Peters, wake up. It's morning. You've been asleep all night.
Johnny sure gave him an awful crack on the noggin, Toro.
Yeah, but he's not dead yet. Oh, wake up, you pig of a counterspy.
What? He's coming, too.
Take these ropes off my arms and I'll...
You'll do nothing, senor. Except what I tell you.
Who are you?
I am El Toro.
El Toro? Oh. You run this gambling ship and the...
See, the gambling ship and all else you came to find. Amigo, you wish both yourself and the charming Senora Fisher to live, huh?
Naturally.
Well, then all you need to do is to send a telegram to your, chief in Washington, the great David Harding. You say to him, you have investigated, and the headquarters of the sweepstake is not in Gulfport, as you think first, but in this small town of Vernoche over in Mexico. And you say you go there now.
Hey, that's good, Toro. And after I send this wire, taking the heat off you, Mrs. Fisher and I get bumped off,
Oh, no, amigo. After a short while, you're made free.
You think I'm dumb enough to believe that? I know you killed that poor bum Frenchie, and you killed Tom Fisher.
Oh, you grieve me, amigo, to doubt my word. But you listen to me, then. You, I promise nothing. But send the telegram, and the senora will not be harmed. I promise.
I wouldn't trust you as far as I could throw the animal you're named after.
Very well, then, Senor Peters. Observe. Here is my gold-hilted matador sword, with which I dispatched the treacherous Frenchie and the reporter. Now, you do as I say, or I kill Senora Fisher here right before your eyes.
No!
Oh, what do you say, senor?
Okay, I'll send the wire.
Now you're talking.
Bueno. There's a telegraph pad here on my desk and pen and ink. Now write.
All right. Untie my hands.
That is simple. With the sword. But try nothing rash, amigo.
I know when I'm licked. Let's see. There's not much ink in this inkwell.
Oh, there's enough for the purpose.
There's enough to blind you for a moment.
I am blind.
No, you don't.
You throw things in my eyes.
You are kill you.
That'll hold you, monk.
Give me that gun. Here are you, monk. Bad luck. Toro got away. No use our running out into another trap. Ruth, help me push the desk against the door. I want to try and figure something out.
All right.
Tony, Mark, one of you.
Here they come. I'll be able to hold them off with Monk's gun for a while. But there's only one bullet left in it.
I just had a session with Gulfport Sheriff, Mr. Harding. 2 fellers killed, Frenchie and Tom Fisher. 2 folks disappeared, Peters and Mrs. Fisher. But the sheriff is plumb out ideas. We'll have to find Peters and Mrs. Fisher without him then, Kennedy. Did you see the newspaper editor? Cyrus Manning, yes. He's young Fisher's uncle, and he's afraid of something. And I have an idea, but I can't do anything about it until I hear. Maybe that's the call I want now. Harding speaking. Oh, yes, Mr. King. Have you got the chipping figure? Good, let's have it. 44.67 tons. Thanks very much. No, that's all I need right now. Thanks again. Goodbye. My hunch was right, Kennedy. Now, I've got a plan, but I'll need your help. Now, I'm going back to see Cyrus Manning, editor of the Gulfport Gazette. And I want... You want your niece, Ruth Fisher, to be found, and you want the killers of your nephew brought to justice, isn't that right?
Naturally, Mr. Harding.
Well, then tell me who killed your nephew and who's responsible for your niece's disappearance.
I don't know.
You're afraid to talk. You're afraid you'll be killed, too, by the golden sword.
That's not true.
But, Mr. Manning, the men you're protecting can't afford to let you live. You know too much. Your only chance to save your life is to confide in me. Those fellows may be planning to murder you at this very moment. Look out, Mr. Manning. Get on the floor.
Good heavens.
Somebody shot at you from the window. Go back here. Too bad, Mr. Manning. He got away. Mr. Manning, you all right?
Yes. I think so. Good heavens.
See, I told you. You were in great danger. Use your head, man. Talk before it's too late.
Get away from the door, Toro, or I'll shoot again.
I have counted your shots, Senor Peters. You don't have no bullets left. Now, come on, amigos. We break down the door. Now, together.
Is he right, Mr. Peters? Are all the bullets really gone?
Yes, Ruth. I tried to bluff him, and he called my bluff.
Oh, dear. Mr. Peters, the door is cracking.
I'm afraid it won't be long now.
Well, there's the gambling ship, Mr. Hardy. The El Toro. Right, Kennedy. Bring us in alongside, Lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hardy, aren't you scared there's innocent patrons aboard? No launches have come out here all day, Kennedy. All right, men, check your weapons. Prepare to board. Lieutenant, head us in. Cut your engine.
Nobody inside, Mr. Harding, and the deck's empty.
I don't like it, Kennedy.
I sent 6 men down the port side. You want us to go up on this side?
Now, let's go. That's a trap. Hit the deck, men! Return that fire!
Here he is, Mr. Harding, El Toro himself, caught hiding up forward. Peters must have winged him. Toro, meet Mr. Harding.
I bow to a greater matador than myself.
Save that baloney for your trial, Toro.
All right, Kennedy, handcuff, and hold him aboard our cutter. Peters, you all right?
Found us $1, Dave.
Good. So these are the presses Toro used for printing the phony sweepstakes tickets.
Yes. Pretty clever setting them up down here in the hold, hmm?
Well, he'll never print any more tickets, Peters. That ex-bullfighter is going to the electric chair.
By the way, Dave, Kennedy told me about the trick you and he pulled on Manning, the newspaper editor. Firing blank shots near him to make him think Toro was after him, so he'd talk.
Well, fortunately, it worked.
How did you happen to suspect that smooth old mint julep was part of this gang?
When the Southwest Paper Mill reported that the Gulfport Gazette bought super newsprint from them, I checked their shipping records against Manning's daily inventory. The inventory was short, which made me suspect that Manning was diverting paper to Toro for his sweepstake tickets.
Well, it was all a well-concealed connection, Dave.
Yes, Toro was very clever with his golden sword, but he'll find it won't cut the lock to the death house door. This is David Harding. A special word to employers. Give work to our handicapped veterans. Next time a job opens, write to Captain Maurice Witherspoon, Masonic Veterans Committee, 71 West 23rd Street, New York City. Give our fighting men a fighting chance for rehabilitation.
Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday, same time, same station to Counterspy. Listen on Thursday for the exciting Counterspy case of the genuine counterfeit.
In the case of the genuine counterfeits, we face a baffling situation of mixed identities. 2 men died, yet who were they? One man lived while another hovered between life and death. And a subtle criminal came within minutes of getting away with a long-prepared, carefully rehearsed plot. The decisive clue, a knife in a man's hand. I invite you to be tuned in on Thursday, day after tomorrow, for
Case of the Genuine Counterfeits on Counterspy. Tonight's Counterspy program originated in New York, was directed by Leonard L. Bass, and featured Don MacLaughlin and mandel-Kramer, with music by Jesse Crawford. Counterspy is a Phillips H. Lord production for Pepsi-Cola. Enjoy some Pepsi, ice cold tonight.
And from 73 years ago, October 4th, 1949, Counterspy here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thank you for making us a part of your day. Please thank this station, support their advertisers. It's their kindness and courtesy that allows us to be with you each and every Tuesday here on your favorite station. Now, if you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. All of our shows, 21 hours a week, available through our webpage, classicradio.stream. There you can stream our shows on demand. You can learn more about classic radio collecting. You can contact me there. You can find our social media links. You can find information about other places that our shows are available for download. And most importantly, you can buy me a coffee. That Buy Me a Coffee money helps us to expand our classic radio collection so that we can bring you additional classic radio programs here. And please tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.